Oh, touchdown.
Hey,
Nice.
all right. Good evening, everybody.
Hey, good evening.
Ron's in control.
That's scary.
Welcome to the North Santiam Sewer Authority NSSA Board Meeting number 73. It's February 6, 2023, and the time is 6:04. Again, welcome. Roll call. Board members. Ron.
Here.
Denny.
Here.
Brian.
You're muted, Brian.
You're muted, Brian.
Here.
Thank you. Tony.
Present.
Ken's present. Tim.
Here.
We have a quorum. Any declarations of conflict of interest? Hearing none. Announcements.
We got lots of new faces that have started recently. Maybe we should do a couple introductions.
Yeah, we will. That's, let's see, we have Laura Conroy. You want to introduce yourself? Ladies first.
Good evening. Well, I don't want to steal Scott Dadson's thunder.
That's okay.
More of a slight snap.
I'm Laura Conroy. I'm the project manager with COG. Just started last week and looking forward to joining this good group.
Nice to meet you.
Glad. You're welcome. Welcome aboard. And we have Chris. You want to pronounce your last name so we don't?
Chris Einmo with Marion County Public Works.
And you are taking whose place, or?
I am coming in as the project manager for Marion County. So not quite taking Brian's place yet, but
We'll let you.
getting my feet wet.
We have Scott, which
Hi, Scott Dadson with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments.
we have Arthur.
Hey, everybody. Arthur Chapel with Business Org.
Mary.
Mary Camerata with Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and both Arthur and I are part of the Regional Solutions team.
Thank you. Silas.
I'm Silas Lovenbit. I'm with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments and the grant administrator.
Thank you. McCray.
Hi, everyone. McCray Carmichael, Community and Economic Development Director with the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments.
Dave.
Howdy, I'm with Common Street Consulting. I'm just a right-of-way agent working on the right of entries for the project, and thought I'd jump on and watch what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who have I missed? We got Kelly. Wow, Kelly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Weiss. I'm the Economic Development Program Manager with Marion County.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Larry, where'd you go? There you are.
Hey, I'm right here. Yeah, Larry Rupp, one of the economic developers here at Marion County.
Oh, look at this. And we got Peter. Who is that? Olson?
Peter Olson with Keller Associates, project manager for Keller, and yeah, I'm happy to be here and visit with you.
Thanks, Peter. We're not going to let you off the hook, Chris Epley.
Chris Epley, Community Services Department Director, Marion County, and no hook needed.
Thanks, Chris. We got RM.
That's Rachel McKinsey.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I must have downloaded a new instance and my full name didn't come in. It's Rachel McIsaac. I am a property owner in Idana, so I try to attend when I can and just keep in touch with all the goodness that's happening.
And you're the property owner next to the proposed, possibly rumored might be
Yes.
a facility site that will not have a drain field on it.
Yes, Mary has been so kind and patient with my 1 million questions. I've even driven by other sites that are similar just to kind of get a better understanding. So a big thank you to everyone for my continued questions.
And you can point the finger right there at Peter.
Now I have a new name. So Peter, watch out.
Let's see. Have I forgotten anybody? Oh, thank you everybody for showing. Oh, we got a 503-798-5076.
That's me. My computer is not computing, so I'm calling in by phone for audio. Yeah.
All right. All right, Arthur. Oh, man. Okay, moving on. Public comment and questions. If any, please limit public comments to 3 minutes each. Do we have any? Moving on, there's 20 participants. All right, Ron, now that you got your microphone working, you're a high-tech individual.
Yeah, being a communications expert. Yeah, I'm Ron Evans. I'm from the Gate City Council. I just joined the team last meeting. My background is basically in telecom and in IT and network design and project management.
Well, welcome aboard. We'd love to, we told you that last time, but
Thank you. Yeah.
Ron, I didn't realize that you were a communications specialist. We have some broadband initiatives that I would love to talk to you about sometime.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I'll get you later.
and once he gets his microphone to stay to work, you can.
Yeah, right.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Update from Marion County. Keller, guess what? All yours.
Sounds great. So give an update on where we're at here this month. The project that we have in our contract with the county is set up in 4 phases, what we're calling phases. That's not a timeline phase, but 4 major components of the project. So as I say, phase 1 is just general engineering services, something that touches all different components of the project. Phase 2 is Mill City Gates wastewater system. Phase 3, Detroit Idana wastewater system, and phase 4, the Detroit interim commercial septic system. So that's a little orientation. So familiar with those terms. So phase 1, we've got a number of different task orders that we're working on under the project management task order, working with Larry Rupp with regards to talking points for the NSSA board. So we are working on those. I know Pam in our office is going to be, and we're going to be working with Larry, set up a meeting to discuss those and fine tune those for your support. Larry, you want to say anything there?
Yeah, is it okay if I put them up on the screen for everyone?
Yeah.
Ron, are you able to give me screen share privilege?
Ron, go down to.
Let's do this again. Participants.
No, screen share.
I gotta do,
It's a green box, Ron, with an arrow pointing.
minute.
It's dead center on the bottom of the screen.
To the left of record.
Okay, just a second.
It might have to.
I think you have to hover your cursor over the bottom of the screen for it to show.
Okay. I got participants open. I guess that's messed me up here.
Yeah, you can touch it and close it.
Yeah, I got that.
And then
So share screen. So
Uh,
yellow. Okay, and
Can you pick Larry to share?
Oh, boy. Share screen.
Well, he got, when you pick it, like if you pick it, Ken, right now, it says, you know, the host has to enable. So he has to enable for Larry to share.
Well, while you work on that, let me, oh, there it goes.
Okay,
Somebody's sharing.
what's on Zoom? That's,
I think Ron's sharing his
Uh,
screen.
uh-oh.
Ron, unshare, please. At the bottom.
I have to find it again.
Wait, at the very, very bottom, past the Zoom sign, keep going.
It changed everything now. I've just got my own stuff on here.
Try
Yep.
pressing escape.
Stop share.
There you go. Okay. Maybe you can do it, Peter. Oh, you can't because you can't share.
If I do participants, can I do,
don't do participants. Don't go into participants. Go into share screen.
okay,
Click on share screen.
yep.
And what does it say?
I've got a block that says screen. I said whiteboard, phones, iPad, and Zoom. Host attendee
What-
Zoom,
What's the first one say?
just says screen. Well, here's, now I come up with, let me click on.
Are you able,
I don't know what happened. I don't know why I don't have control. Ah.
Larry, are you able to email it to us? Maybe we can follow along.
yeah.
I'm sure Peter can describe it.
Put it in the
Well,
chat.
here, I could just read them. Why don't I
Just
just,
verbally talk about it. Yeah, I think that's.
yeah,
better.
why don't I put them in the chat and read them, huh?
Yeah, put it in the chat. There you go.
There we go. Okay, so I'm putting them in the chat. These are essentially, we had a meeting back in December 12th. Denny, I, Keller, and Brian Nicholas to talk about some talking points that NISA could help with reinforcing in the community, especially related to the scope of work right now. So the first one is, what's the official dollar figure allocated for temporary commercial septic for redevelopment of the business core in Detroit? I'm not going to read out the rest of them, but we were looking at potentially scheduling an admin work session on one of the days in our calendar, either if you guys wanted to meet on a board session or if you wanted to meet on one of the Fridays, and we could go through and really craft these. We could put them out on the website, and it seems like these are some of the questions that have really been circulating around and that have caused any potential for rumors. And if we have right now, like a crafted narrative of these, then we'll all be able to repeat the same things to people.
Yes. On the same page.
And so I wanted to see if any of the board members wanted to be involved for a potential meeting where we meet with Peter and then probably also Chris Einmo. We know you guys, you're very new, but it could help orient with you.
And when's the date? When do you have this planned for?
Oh, we could call it, what do we do our admin work sessions? We do it would be next Friday morning if we want to do an admin work session, or it would be on the 20th if we wanted to do an evening meeting. But if it's just a small group, we can, we can have it any other time, depending on who wants to be involved.
Larry, this is Denny. I'm leaving the continent on the 20th, so I would really appreciate being part of that. And if we could plan for the earlier date, that would be terrific.
Okay. Does this week work for you at all, Peter and Chris? Denny?
Sorry, I was on mute. This Friday works for me.
So you're saying the 10th,
Yep, the Friday the 10th.
what time?
Let's call it,
The time before 3.
does 10:30 work?
Works for me.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right, great.
Chris Imo, are you on board with that time and day?
Yep, that's what works great for me.
Right.
Put me
Right.
down, but I can't guarantee it with what I'm doing.
Okay.
Will this meeting be remote, Larry, or will we be at the county office?
Either one. What are you thinking?
I could do the county, but remote works as well for me. So whatever's preferred.
Denny, you
Depending
trying to
on-
come down? Or you want to
Yeah,
be remote?
I'll just come down to county, but others can join remotely. We do that frequently in that space, so that should work well.
Yeah, I could join if you do it remotely. I can't be present.
Thank you, Tony.
Would anyone from the COG
Can you
be
repeat the
interested?
time and place, please?
10:30 this Friday?
My sound is pretty bad, so I'm trying to suffer through this, but I can't get it to fix. But
That's
so
okay. It would be
Friday at 10:30 on the 10th,
Yes.
and you're going to have a remote possibility.
Yep. And then Silas as well. Cool. Do we want to do it here at Marion County or would you want to meet at COG?
I thought Marion County didn't have the room anymore, so it'd have
Oh,
to,
they do.
they what?
They do have the room.
Yeah, they haven't knocked down the walls yet.
We could use our conference room here as well. We're just a couple blocks away. So if it's needed.
Well, it might be nice to meet at Keller.
There we go. We can mess up their room.
Yeah, we'll ruffle you guys up.
We'll have to do a couple puzzle pieces that's on the conference table.
Yeah,
All
just
right.
send an address.
All right, well, I'll put that in the chat.
There's no guarantee that I can be there with what I'm doing, so I'd probably be remote.
Cool. On that same note, I don't wanna hijack you too much, but Ron and I actually walked around, what was it, last Monday? It sounds like Ron has the old task sheet. Do you guys remember that spreadsheet? The big yellow one?
Ms. Danielle Gonzalez made that.
Where it
I'm
talks
sure it's on
about,
the G drive.
it is, it could use some updating. And so maybe we could kill two birds with one stone. If we're looking at these talking points, we can look at updating this NISA work plan, essentially, that she had made. And that hasn't been updated since, call it like April. But this might be able to get us a little momentum started for the operational plan, or at least a little bit of planning for our next meeting at the very least.
Okay.
And I'll send out a meeting invite with Teams so I can get that up on the screen and you can forward it to all whoever else is participating, Larry. So
cool.
If you've got the list of everyone attending, I'll just forward it to you or send it to you and you can forward it on. So
Before we go any further, Silas, are you taking notes for this meeting for the minutes, or you are? Thank you. Thank you. And the recording, Ron, will go to your computer under Zoom, and you're gonna have to upload it.
Okay.
It'll have to go to NSSA, so I don't know who changed all this stuff or what happened in the settings, but I can't do that anymore.
It probably had to do with who launched the meeting.
I got on early just to make sure my voice was working. So probably that's probably why it was.
Okay. All right, we got that covered. So anything else, Larry?
No, that's really what I was hoping to cover with you guys for this meeting that kind of came up over the last month. There was one other thing I might want to talk about later when we're talking about the communications plan. Because when we did meet to come up with those talking points, we did come up with a lot of other information that we might want to run over to help us land. That could at least be nice to review with the group.
Okay.
And I have a number of issues that I want to discuss during the communications plan item on the agenda, so we can segue there now, or we can do it later.
Well, we'll go do it later. We'll go down the list here. Introduction of new staff from Marion County. We already did that. Or
Well, do you want me to finish my summary?
hey, go
Definitely.
for it. Hey,
Sorry, Peter, we appreciate you. Thanks.
Peter, I'm slammed. You know, we're dealing with mom, so
No. You're fine.
you just let me know.
I want to make sure you know where we're at. So it's important to share. So so we have we also are doing a city council update for the city of Detroit for the commercial septic on the 14th. So we myself and Brian and Chris Einmo will be there to provide that update. For the strategic permitting plan, so we have our SWCA environmental consultants is helping us navigate the environmental permitting for the overall project. And so we had a kickoff meeting last week on the 31st. And so now they are working on obtaining all the agency contact information and getting that first contact made. Subsequent to the contact we made during the master planning process. So it's continuing that. And they're anticipated to put the plan together and have that ready in April is the time frame for that. And that's the whole kit and caboodle of what putting together a plan of how we're gonna tackle that. You know, working with the Army Corps, working with ODOT, working with all the different agencies of what's the best way to make that work. Next one is the subsurface exploration that is underway. GSI Water Solutions should be a familiar name for those that have read the master plan. They are well underway in putting their exploration plan together. We had a kickoff meeting last week as well on the 1st at our office here. Went up to Mill City and visited in right of way. We did not enter properties because we don't have that yet. But took a look where we could of the potential properties that we've got on the list. So they're working through that. We have right of entry for both the shallow and the deep soil excavations underway. Common Street, Dave is part of that group to help us to obtain that right of entry to do those explorations. It's a fairly comprehensive process of not just getting the right of entry, but also planning and preparing for that investigation. So that is very much those couple different balls are juggling in the air right now for that part of the project. We're hoping to do shallow soil excavations, aka test pits, and infiltration tests in early March. Doing having an evaluation memo towards the end of that month for that shallow soil evaluation, and then looking at the first week of May to do deep soil evaluation. So monitoring wells, aquifer tests, so on and so forth. Going through my note, make sure I catch everything here.
Peter, what's
Yep.
the difference there between the shallow and the deep? Why do you need both in layman's terms?
Yeah, one's infiltration. How can it infiltrate and accept the amount of water? And then the deep soil is we would like to know what the depth of aquifer, how much of a mound, and I say a mound, it's a liquid mound in the groundwater. How much can it take? How much can it receive? Understanding what those depths are, and then just to get a deeper profile. We can do a lot of test pits for a relatively cheap cost, but the drilling is something much more costly, and so limiting that to a smaller number of test wells. So, and those groundwater monitoring wells have to be, when we're all done, unless it's the final site that we're going to use and keep those, they would, if they're not being used, they would have to be abandoned. So there's a whole process, whereas the test pits are shallow and much simpler.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Other component with the subsurface exploration for the Detroit Indiana Basin is the U.S. Forest Service permitting, working on the McCoy Creek or the McCoy site alternative. We are in communication with the Forest Service District Ranger as well as a Special Uses Permit Administrator, Amy Snook, to step through it's a whole NEPA permitting process just to even get on site and do investigation. So that's a process that takes longer. So there's 2 phases to that happening. If you can see my hands, two phases happening. And so that one is moving forward though, and I in the right pace there as well. We do have, sorry, was that background noise somewhere? Okay. Task 103, or the next one, is the property acquisition support. We're scoping that out officially. It's the work that Common Street is doing, but we will have them providing support, for our right of entry and for both that and property, the full property acquisition as well. Moving on to the next phase, Mill City Gates facility planning study. We are working on that. We're planning a kickoff meeting that will be, and Mary, you haven't seen an invite yet, but it's in the works. We will be getting all those folks that we discussed invited to that meeting. We've been working on the planning criteria so that we could have a more robust discussion at that meeting and discussing with the different agencies and folks involved there, the population and the demands and loading. So that's all the update I have for that one currently. Phase 3, there's no specific or active task for Detroit Indiana other than everything else we're doing with the environmental permitting, the subsurface exploration, and permitting with the Forest Service. Looking at phase 4, the Detroit interim commercial septic systems, we have 53 identified commercial properties. We've reached out to 34. We've made contact with 32. We've met with 19. And we're scheduled to meet with another 13 properties in the next 2 weeks. A number of properties are on the market. We are observing not from afar, but we're observing to see what happens to make sure that we're working with the correct people, the correct folks, the ones that are the true property owners. And we are looking and are obtaining more contact information for the 21 additional properties. So as you can imagine, this is a quite, a detailed process. We're trying to gather information. We have ideas and more importantly, concepts that we're thinking of on how to support these interim commercial septic systems. So more to come on that. But I feel like it's being productive, and we're meeting with a lot of property owners that are happy to be meeting with us and sharing their information, their vision for the properties and what they'd like to do as a part of this interim commercial septic program.
Excuse me, Peter.
Yes, sir.
Denny, I'm not catching everything you're saying. Your voice is so deep, and with my devices, I don't get it, but that's cool. When I spoke with Brian Nicholas a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the prospect of the county sequestering property through purchases within the business district to use as common ground for a green fields / sewer treatment area that could accommodate larger properties. Has that discussion moved forward? And if so, what are you thinking now about that possibility?
The discussion has moved forward. It has not moved to a point where we have a concept other than some thoughts and ideas. I think that has potential. But also I would, that's part of getting Common Street involved with property acquisition to understand what that, is. I would hesitate to use the term, and I don't mean this, I just saying sequester property as if you're talking with folks in the community, it might have a very negative connotation because they're looking at potential, purchase of property to work with it. And so yeah, that it is moving forward, that topic. We don't have anything to report as far as, hey, this, these 3 or 4 properties look like they have potential. We have heard from at least one property owner, private property owner, that they are open to having their property be used as a location for a group drain field. These properties are not large, and they all have to still meet the permitting requirements of less than 5,000 gallons per day. So we're, having to work with both either the county permitting limits of 2,500 or 2,499 gallons per day, or the WPCF requirements of 5,000 gallons per day or less. So we're still working within those requirements, or those, those bookends, but trying to find those locations, Denny. So I don't have anything great to report as far as which properties that we're looking at, but I would stay tuned for next month's update.
Well,
Hopefully
thank you.
we'll
I
know
just
more.
wanted to get that subject into the minutes so that we can continue to look at that potential over time.
Yes, 100%. It is very much could be a needed component of the project in order to make new septic systems work for a number of those properties. As you're all aware, the site limitations of some of those properties limit them from having a septic system on their own property, just for their own uses. It's pretty tight properties. So,
especially if you want to put a laundromat in there.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Peter, Tony Moronis, I'm a resident in Idana and a board member for NSSA. You mentioned the meeting in Detroit. As Denny said about being an advocate for the upper communities, I'm very much one of the advocates to not allow us to be left out down the road. Can you tell me when that meeting is going to be and if it's going to be posted somewhere so I can let our city council and our residents know?
It's a regular city council meeting for the city of Detroit, and on the 14th at, I think it's at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, Valentine's Day, they're daring.
Yes, sir.
It's
My wife loved my wife loved getting that meeting invite.
That's the second Tuesday of every month, correct?
Yeah, 6:30.
Yes.
I think we have our city council meeting the same times, but I want to just at least get it on the door so that people know.
You have your council meeting in Idana on the Wednesday, don't you?
Yeah, I think it is Wednesday, actually. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's second Tuesday of every month for Detroit.
Yep.
Anything
right.
else, Peter?
Yeah, real quick, just the other component of that is there's a task order there for as a part of that interim commercial septic system for Canes Marina, working to put together a concept for Canes Marina, and we're getting the surveying and geotech going for that. So, and that's not a drain field concept. I should be more specific about that. That's a holding tank that would work as a future lift station location for the larger long-term project.
Is that just one tank or 3?
To be determined, but currently in my vision, 1.
Okay.
Here, we'll need to see that long-term contract for pumping, remember?
Sure. Of course.
I think DEQ has to approve this, the holding tanks. I don't think Marion County can.
We can approve it for you, Mary.
Nope, sorry. That'll be Jessica Joy's job.
Peter,
I
this
would
is
imagine.
Brian Gander from Gates.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
tell me what the funding source of this project is?
It's the,
I mean,
it's
if
the
we're
same.
talking land acquisition and that kind of stuff, is it What is this coming out of?
I can't speak for the land acquisition specifically, but I believe it's the same funding that is providing, the downtown commercial septic program, as well as the design and construction of the system currently in Gates Mill City that's funded. So it's all the same funding package. Arthur might be able to tell me exactly where that funding is coming from.
Hold on, one at a time.
Peter, are these assets being purchased in the name of the sewer authority or what?
That I don't have an answer for that, Brian. That's a good question.
I hope we could get that answered. It'd be helpful.
I'm sure you could. I don't have that answer today, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
If I could suggest, that probably is a question for Mr. Imo to report back at the next meeting about in what name those assets are being purchased. But this does sound like, the Detroit portion of the $50 million ARPA award. It does sound to me like the Business Oregon contract.
Agree.
When I spoke with Brian about that, he indicated that it would be purchased by Marion County and held for a time until we have a permanent system installed, and then deal with it after the fact in terms of dispersal into the community.
Because it's been discussed over and over that NSSA is not going to own any property or own any of the facilities. We're just going to be overseers.
Okay, so make that a point to discuss at our next meeting would be the long-term ownership of those assets.
I hate to be contrary, Ken. I think that's still up for debate because we haven't seen any real bones on the drawing that Brian Nichols gave us regarding the funding structure. So I know that we agreed for Brian to go forward, but I think if we go back to the minutes, we'll see there are some folks that needed to see more specific information regarding that. So
okay,
that's my recollection.
That's for the record. Okay. Any more, Peter?
That's it for mine. Any additional questions?
Any more questions, Denny? Anybody? Scott? Anybody? Ron?
Not at this time. Not at this time.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Peter. We're moving forward. Let's just say that.
That's great.
Introduction of new staff for Marion County. Who wants to take the lead on that? Where'd he go? You got to introduce yourself, Chris. This is introduction of new staff for Marion County. You're the newbie. Just introduce yourself, your background. Sorry you're from Phoenix, Arizona, but
don't worry. When the summer's here, I will be quite happy about being here.
It rains in the summer too, believe me.
I'm looking forward to it, actually.
So you're from Phoenix? So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, for the last year, I was in engineering consulting, doing water wastewater projects for various municipalities. Before that, I was with the city of Yuma, Arizona for 5 years as a CIP project manager.
Gosh, Arizona. A lot of history. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
It's a large this is a large project. It's it's complicated, but it's needed in the canyon. It's needed. And we need all the help we can get. Moving forward, banking discussion. Ron Evans has offered to take on the treasurer role and work on our website.
Here, here.
I have no clue who changed all my stuff, but someone did. It'll be up to the board to decide to proceed and how to proceed. So, you want to let us know a little bit about your expertise there, Ron?
Well, I was running the finance for projects when I end, which is generally speaking from the $1 to $5 million range. And I set up the systems, managed the project, closed them out, sold them to the customer, and as well as ran the projects themselves.
And I had talked about COG taking over the finances. Anybody at COG want to tackle this? McCray?
I'm gonna let Scott speak to it.
Yeah, we actually had some internal discussion about that. And this is really on your 150. That's what you have. We did have a meeting with the Mill City folks, and they've closed out their first initial portion with the NSSA board, the 26,000, whatever that initial amount was. We still have some concerns. They have nothing to do with you guys. They have everything to do with on our side. We're finishing our transition over to new financial software and some staffing things. So we're just in the middle of that and finishing audits, unfortunately. So it's a little hard for us to focus on that, at least in the immediate future. So if Ron will handle it and do those things, plus one last thing, just to make sure the board's real clear, that 150, which is what you have in your account right now, we become the recipient of that. So I think it's better in Ron's hands for right now until we have a clear path forward for you guys, and we can give you guys some cover on that. You need cover on that, Ron. You want to make sure that it's clean and clear. All the checks are out top. You know, the reports come back to the board. You know that, Ron. We had a good conversation about this the other day, but just make sure it's all clean and clear. And then as things loosen up for us, we will definitely be willing to come back to the table and have a conversation after the budget year and see what we can do to help move you guys forward.
I'll probably need some guidance on that. If you can give me a hand, that would be good.
We'd be happy to. Absolutely happy to.
And I think the balance, Silas. Too much trucking, Silas.
All good, all good.
I think it's 147,540, isn't it?
Yeah.
The balance.
Yeah.
And I need to give you all whoever's going to take it, which the board will decide. Need to cough up all the information, the banking information, the contacts, all that stuff. More than happy to. So
I think, Ken, the objective is to get it off your
motion
plate.
to appoint Ron as our treasurer.
Hey, Denny, hold on for a second. What, Scott?
I just had a quick question. Sorry, Denny, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right.
I apologize, sir. I think what we want to do is, I know you've got a lot on your plate. Ron, if you're willing to take the treasurer, what I think we can do is let us sit down with you. Let's look at everything, make sure you know where everything is at. Then let's come up with a plan about, let's say, a July 1st transfer or something like that, that we can work on. The thing I want the board to have is protection as they go through this. That's what you want. You want an audit, you know, a simple review of your finances. You want to make sure things are in order, that you can report back to your individual boards where everything is, and be clear, and to the county, and be nice, clean, and clear about everything. And Ron, Ken's been handling it, doing a great job, but this is a little bit more money than he's been handling before. So want to make sure everything's where it needs to be and where the accounts are and whatnot. So we can sit down with you, Ron, go through everything and make sure you have a sounding board for this and get you through this.
Super.
Just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion? Any more? Ron, do you have anything to say?
No, no more than that.
And you're willing to take it on?
Yes, sir.
Denny,
I'd make a motion to appoint Ron Evans as treasurer for NSSA.
I'll second.
is that Tony? I wasn't looking at the screen. Tony, second. You're getting all this, Silas, right?
Indeed, somehow.
Okay, Denny made the motion to have Ron Evans appointed as the new treasurer. And Tony second. All right, we'll do a vote. Denny,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
I'm gonna put Tim on the, Tim?
Aye.
Hi, you made it. Ron, you want to vote for yourself?
Aye.
Who am I missing? I'm missing one.
Tony.
Tony, you
Aye.
did. Thank you, Tony.
Welcome.
Motion passes. Ron, you're the new treasurer. I will get amongst all my what I got going. I will get it all together. I'll get all my notes and I'll turn it over to you.
Super.
Thank you. Oh, that was the treasure part. What about the website?
I can give it a shot if you want me to. I've set them up before, so the general idea what to do.
So your recording, the recording is Zoom. There's been a lot of questions about recently. There's been not a lot of questions, a couple of comments. Do we want Zoom or Peter, what's the other one? Help me out.
Teams.
Teams. So the website right now, no one's doing it. No one's handling it. McCray, do you have any comments on that?
I do. Our contract for services with you has us doing website work. So we can, content wise, take direction from y'all, but we can maintain, add information, and that sort of stuff.
So is that good with you, Ron?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that with Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments doing the website. Do we need to make a motion on that or it's just understood?
Consensus.
I would say that it's in our,
in
you
our
made a
agreement.
motion. Yeah, it's part of our IGA for our services with you.
Yeah, I think that's already been done. Thank you, McCray.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, banking, accounting, Scott, guess what? You just went over that, correct? You're mute.
Sorry. Yes, sir. I did.
Okay. Grant update. Silas.
You're on mute, Silas.
Hello, hello. So I have, so as for my grant update, we are with the Ford Family Foundation Technical Assistance Grant for $5,000 that we applied for. I have yet to hear back from the Ford Family Foundation, and I remain to reach out to hear back on the status of our application. To my knowledge, they've been in the middle of some transitions, but now they've gotten back on track. Just from Marion counties and a couple of other cities submitting their own technical assistance applications. So I am going to ask us to the status of ours and provide update. So that is for the current grant that we have submitted. But for future grant funding that we need as per the operational plan that that Peter Wilson has been working on. I'm going to start working on some grant prospecting to at least continue filling up the necessary funds for that.
Okay, so you're gonna reach out to the Ford Foundation or just to contact them to see where we stand?
Yes, and that was for $5,000 to hire a communications assistant.
Oh, good. Okay, anything else? All right, moving down to the communication plan. Who wants to take that on? Larry?
Well, I'd like to start, Ken.
Okay, Denny.
First of all, I'd like to share with everyone the inventory that I'm aware of materials that are available to help people who get involved and engaged in community communications about our projects. First of all, we have a white paper that was developed 6 or 7 months ago with the help of Sarah Albin, and I, worked collaboratively on that. We also put together frequently asked questions. I've shared both of those documents with everyone on the NSSA. We also have summary notes related to Peter's update in November, which we discussed earlier today. We have discussion points from Brian's presentation regarding how resources will be deployed in Detroit and IDANA, which I think are going to be updated. And then Larry has put together a really nice North Santiam Canyon update pamphlet, which we actually left in the Civic Center in our pamphlet rack in the foyer for citizens, and it's being used. And I think we're in a position where we need to resupply. Larry, I think, is going to update this on sort of an ad hoc basis, depending upon what's going on, somewhere between a month and 2 months. And I think from a discussion we had earlier today, she's just done another update, which isn't a lot in terms of new content, but it's fresh from the original one. And then the other thing that I thought was really useful is that Peter Olson put together a slide for his presentation up at the Detroit business meeting in mid-December, which is entitled City of Detroit Wildfire Recovery Septic System Repair Replacement Assistance Project. And it has tremendous information available to share with your communities. So with that background, what I'd like to suggest, and I'd like your feedback, is that I think local communications should be conducted by local leaders from the NSSA. I think for Denny Nielsen to go into Mill City or Gates or even IDANA and make presentations probably would work on some cursory level. But I think if you have folks who have the material that I just described that can meet probably during times that regular meetings occur anyway, and then special times where you might want to bring in others would be more effective in terms of people being appreciative and understanding what's going on. The most appropriate meeting opportunities and locations are best known by those who live in those communities, which is just one more point for using local leadership to provide the meeting contact. We could also prepare email distributions of new material as developed by, myself in the position of communications and public relations director. And we could do that through the development of a vertical email list, which makes it really simple to send out, 2 paragraphs to 2 pages of information as things develop with the project over time. And the other thing, of course, we can do, and I have a meeting set up with a Canyon Weekly in I think the next couple of weeks, just before I leave, to talk about the project. And certainly I'm willing to talk with radio stations, as I think Brian Gander suggested a while back, but others could be involved in that process too. So with that, I'd just be interested in everybody's reaction in terms of how best to move forward and what you all think it would be most effective in terms of our approach to informing our individual communities.
Well, I think that, like for Tony, for Idana, Denny and I for Detroit, local residents, informing local residents of the project, keeping them updated is very good.
Well, at every city council meeting, I provide an update from NSSA.
Yes.
And I think Tony may do something the same. I have no idea what occurs in Mill City and Gates, but those are sort of the local opportunities that we can easily take advantage of. And I just make that part of my council report. And everybody seems to appreciate it. And I almost always get comments after the meeting by people who stick around to get a little bit more detailed information. Does that make sense to y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. And I actually have accepted, it's not formalized, a position on our council that was available. So, but besides that, I'm, in the meetings and talking to people. So I agree with you. I think there might be cases, to Ken's point, where, or maybe it was you, Denny, where it's good to bring in somebody who has a little deeper knowledge, because I've only been around for the 1.5 years and unfortunately haven't been able to make a lot of meetings, but definitely is top of mind. And I think that's most impactful. Thank you for that.
I agree with that, Tony. A prophet is not a prophet in his own land. So if we can get, Peter or Brian or Chris, with a nice slideshow, it probably would really be well accepted.
Agree. Anything else on the communications?
Oh, well, Denny and I on the 12th of December, right before Christmas, we had a chat. I'm going to send it out into the chat, send out the document, but we had a chat with Brian and Peter, that same one we made those talking points. And I thought that we had some pretty good discussion there. So I thought maybe we could run through some of them just so that way we can facilitate some discussion amongst ourselves. If you guys are interested.
So who can do the share screen?
I don't think we need to. I sent it out to the chat. You guys can should be able to just click that link. And then we can go through them.
We see it right here.
Is it see if it works for you guys?
Mm-hmm.
That's terrific, Larry.
Yes.
Cool.
5 points. Yeah, let's get this website or get this Zoom meeting share stuff all squared away for the next meeting, whoever's going to work on it, because I don't have control anymore.
Larry, do you see that building upon the current FAQ that sits on their website?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, particularly those 5 talking points,
Okay.
and then maybe Friday we might even come up with a couple more. But I think it would be a really good maybe even if not FAQ, but like a blog post.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that's going to be important to do is to move certain things over into historical context and
Mhm.
keep what's out on the FAQ fresh, so that when people are looking at it, they're not seeing the 2019 conversation unless they're looking for it in the historical context, but they have the most up to date about where the project is, what's going on, who do I talk to, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Good point, Scott.
Yeah, right now it seems like, you know, as particularly on the 12th, because we were getting prepared for that property owner outreach meeting that was up in Detroit. If you guys remember the one that was in the gymnasium.
Yeah, 13th of December.
And so we met up on the 12th to kind of run through some stuff. And while we were at it, we thought we just had a discussion. So right now, a lot of the discussion is surrounding Detroit and the commercial septic, because it seems like the facilities planning, the test pits, the right of way might not be as big of a part as the conversation in the community. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, since you're out there all the time, but it sounds like the residents are particularly concerned with the interim in Detroit.
We're concerned about Detroit.
Maybe not concerned, but just that's what people are talking about, and
Right.
the information that we want to keep consistent. Yeah, so
Have you seen the talking points there? She's talking about, Denny?
Yes. Well,
Yep, he was at that meeting.
I helped Larry develop them, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Peter, feel free to chime in as you like. You too, Chris, if you like. But some of the things we talked about, if we're going into this document, why isn't the whole project approved all at once? Because we're just kind of going through the fast start process to keep the ball rolling, get it started, and then also amendments. And then also we'll learn things during subsurface exploration that'll give us a better understanding for later scopes, instead of just approving the big project all at once. I don't know if you guys have noticed that it's been trickling a little bit.
A little?
Well, what I get questions about is the difference between getting Mill City systems right and the Project B. They think it's all one.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of making clear to them that it's two separate pieces, that it's not really related to the sewer authority. It's just building capacity for Mill City is necessary for Mill City, and it's only tangentially related to the sewer authority, and that eventually the sewer authority will be combining Mill City and Gates together, because that's an important distinction, both in the short run and the long run, because I think people up here are confusing the projects.
Yeah. Do you guys know the Mill City, like the current upgrades to their system? Is that broken out as a separate contract, or is that falling under the big scope of work?
Arthur has his hand up.
If I may.
Go ahead, Arthur.
Hey, guys. Yep, so Business Oregon has one contract with Marion County that covers the work of the NSSA. We have a second contract directly with Mill City to fund some improvements there. We've talked about that as the interim improvements. Probably not the right term. So Mary and I were talking earlier today, and it sounds like the current plan in Mill City, which maybe Peter or Mary could speak more technically to, is to go plug a whole bunch of leaks in the system called I&I fixes, infiltration and inflow fixes, to prevent storm water from running into the sewer system. They think that if they do that, they'll be able to buy themselves enough extra flow to, build the housing that they want to in Mill City, and stretch the life, I would say, of the existing Mill City sewer system. But that work, whatever form it takes, should not be, will not be part of the ARPA award that Marion County has in the name of the NSSA. Does that answer the question there a little bit? And Mayor Gander, that's different information than what you and I talked about on Friday. I didn't understand that situation entirely on Friday when you and I ran into one another. So does that answer the question?
Well, it answers it for me, but that still leaves my community somewhat at a loss as to understand the moving pieces here. I think, in the long run, that may reduce the overall cost as the business model in Appendix K shows. There's some challenges to that business case study, which I think we should look into, but that's a point for a different time. I just would like the talking points that we're presenting to our communities to represent the fact that there's a concern that Mill City has expressed and had for a time about the limitations coming forward with their system, reaching capacity. Maybe some of that can be mitigated, as Arthur states, but that's separate from the Project B. Project B is an entity in and of itself. And those two things should be distinct in our community's minds and not muddled.
And Brian, the fixing of the sewer pipes to get the flows down, and Peter can talk to this as well, is that 54 housing unit that we have concerns about taking care of that. Mill City has other aspirations, other things they want to bring on board that what they're proposing to fix wouldn't solve that. So the larger project with gates would help with the aspirations of having more housing in Mill City. But this short-term fix is just so we can get those 54 housing units in that the Marion County has bought off on. We have lift dollars from Oregon Housing Community Services, and so we really want to save that project by finding a way to handle their flows without having to do a permit mod with DEQ or delaying what's happening on with the North Santiam Sewer Authority. So it's very challenging, and Peter's on that project as well, but again, different funding source than what's going on with.
That's good. I just would like that reflected in our FAQs, maybe. Would be a good place for that, because in the long run, people are going to begin to figure out that the rate revenue that is projected in the case study that was done as a feasibility for this has some serious flaws in it, and we need to get those flaws corrected before we get too far down the road.
Well, and I would say, once we understand the disposal site, what that is, and what the level of treatment is, then Peter will be able to update numbers that will then lead to what the rates will be. So we kind of need these other pieces to, and Peter, you can speak too about this. It's just a little premature for us to get better numbers at this stage, because we're still trying to figure out where we're going to go with our disposal side, and then that'll affect what's going on for the treatment side of the shop.
I think that's a really good point, Mary, but the fact is that the numbers are out there. And if it's bad information and we have better information, we should probably get the most current information to our communities. So the bad information, we can say, well, that was early. We're getting smarter. So that's just my comment about
things. I don't think it's bad information. I just think it's not current information, and we're getting more information to be able to refine those numbers, either up or down or whatever. We don't know.
We had ideas of what it could be earlier. Things change.
Well, yeah, they do. I get that, but people are grounding themselves in those numbers. And so if we don't give them an alternative, they're gonna be grounded in that belief that hold it, you told me it was $77 or $100 or whatever it was, depending on the percent of financed, gifted, I guess, granted money. So there's some way if we can start dispelling some of those rough numbers that maybe weren't as accurate as we felt they could be, that would be to our advantage.
Yes.
Larry, I think you and I can work on those numbers. I have some after talking to Brian Nicholas in terms of, the 50 million, the 10 split from that to go to Detroit and Idana, and the fact that the deficit has grown from in the Mill City Project A, Mill City Gates, from a match of $5 to now $10 million before they have, complete resources needed to finish the project. And the new numbers for Detroit are now $62 million for the permanent system. So Brian makes a great point. We need to get those numbers into our data so that they're part of any report that goes out and people are kept informed.
We need more information, and we can't well, if you start saying, I don't know. We had an idea what it would be in the beginning. It's changing. The fire changed everything. I think we just communicate that things, we need to make it affordable. And that's what we're trying to do.
Cool. I have that as an agenda topic for our Friday meeting, to list out the official dollar numbers out there for grants, how they've changed, how they might affect hookup rates later.
Perfect.
So that way we can add that to our FAQ.
I think it's on our website, what we're trying to do. Good point. Thanks, Larry.
Cool. All right. Anybody, anyone else? Thank you, Brian, for that, for one of the facts that you're looking for, as we're looking for an information update. Has anyone else heard anything from their cities, particularly questions that are being repeated that you think could really benefit to have an answer crafted for?
And if
so, Larry, I'll tell you the most common question I get. What should I do with my septic tank right now? I think it's within 1 or 2 years of failing. And so, if there's some information about the grant opportunities that DEQ has, or that the Mid-Willamette Valley COG has, that we could get those into the talking points, would be quite helpful for some of our constituents to make a decision as to, do I just go ahead and change it? Because I think it's going to go between now and when the sewer comes online. And if we do, I think there's considerations in there that we need to ask city councils about the question of, well, if you take this money, that means you have to join the sewer. So I think there's some conversations that we need to have as a board that advises city councils as to how to respond to their constituents in that context.
Well, and I would say, Brian, we have to think about, you need as many users as possible. And so if you let people opt out, the model's even going to get more screwed up. And so this is a good time to talk about all this. That's all I'm saying, is because we need as many users as possible to keep this cost down, because otherwise it's not going to be.
Well, that goes back to Wilson's case study. He included, units from Idana and Detroit into the project cost, which I think is a weakness of his study. But I don't want to be the only community of the 4 that tells people, if you go this route and replace it and have it paid for, I'd like to have, the city councils all agree that, yes, this is the way we're going to go. We'll support each other in that concept.
I think that if you get any money from COG or any of the grants that are out there, they're going to have you sign something that when the sewer comes through, you will be joining it.
Is that true, McCray? Mary? Does that sound like something that's written in?
Some of the money has that, and that's from Business Oregon, has that, and it was when it's given to Marion County for Detroit, and Idana said you would hook up.
Yes.
The money that DEQ gave through Oregon, sorry, onsite septic financial aid program doesn't have that requirement. So there's different pots of money that, depending on which one the people use, and you can mix and match some of these as well to your costs are higher than anticipated, you could take, you know, and that's something that the COG and Marion County will work out. But yeah, Arthur, go ahead and speak to that in that, I know it was in that contract.
I don't have anything to add necessarily about the Business Oregon contract, Mary, that you're right about that. But what I would say is that regardless of what any of the contracts say, the 4 cities and the county are really going to need to figure this out. And you can look at the pro forma that Wilson ran. He assumed 100% connection on day 1, and he assumed a population equivalent to the pre-fire population. And if you start subtracting for the lower population you have today, and then you say, well, the people who just spent a bunch of money on new septics can opt out, start backing that out of the pro forma and look at what happens to your O&M costs. The monthly rate can become eye-popping. So, and I'm not here, I don't live in the canyon, so I have my own sewer bill. I don't have a dog in the fight, right? You guys are going to have to make your own decision about this, but there are implications both ways. You know, it's difficult to tell somebody who just spent $10,000, $20,000 on a new septic system, you now must hook up to the sewer. And it's difficult to your pro forma if you don't. So you guys are going to need to sort, and I know the sewer authority doesn't have any authority to make a call like that, but the 4 cities that are members do. And the 4 cities are going to need to think this through. And the mayor is absolutely right to call for a reevaluation, I think, of that pro forma periodically as you go through the project. You're not going to do it one more time either. You're going to do it a few more times as your cost estimates are fine. And then finally, as you go out to bid and you get the real numbers. Anyway, I'll stop there, but that's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Arthur.
Do you think there are any opportunities now to pass resolutions within the city for hookup requirements that are contingent on these grants? I really don't know the answer to that one, so I'm hoping
I
maybe
don't
someone here
think we
does.
have enough information to get into that conversation. I think you would end up creating, you know, more issues that we really can't answer because we simply don't have the data at this time. That said,
numbers.
I don't know of a municipal sewer treatment system that has been executed that doesn't require all citizens or all properties within the confines of the city limits to hook up. I mean, it just doesn't work otherwise. So, you know, I think our responsibility is to monitor this in a way and to execute on our responsibilities in a way that maintains costs as low as possible with a quality outcome in terms of the infrastructure, and then deal with it later on, because the reality is if you don't hook up everyone, you're not going to be able to pay for the maintenance, let alone the cost of implementation.
But maybe that's okay talking point to say, long-term, we're going to need everybody to hook up.
Absolutely, Mary.
And I think it's a different story for Gates in Mill City because their system should be sooner, right? And Detroit and Idana looking a little bit longer because we don't have the construction costs for them.
Great point.
I think you can have 2 messages, maybe a little bit different for Gates and Mill City, about like if somebody has 2 to 3 years to wait on Gates, their system's working fine, or mostly fine, maybe they just let it roll. But if they got free money to fix it, maybe that's what they do. But you're right, Brian and Danny, you know, just giving people information so they can make their own decision down the road.
And I think questions that I run across up here tie into that a little bit, that you know, the biggest question or where lack of interest comes from is because there is no timeline. People feel like it's just not going to happen up here. And so when I talk to people about it, they're like, heard it before, it's not going to happen. Or we hear it's going to be 5 years, or we hear it's going to be 15 years. So the numbers are all over. And so I don't know that it's possible for us to, but to give even a broad range of saying, I'm just going to throw it out. It's 2 to 3 years for Mill City Gates and potentially 5 to 10 years for Detroit Idana. The Detroit business part is separate than that. Something that you can kind of give something that's going to be updated as you go along, because right now I go to them and I'm like, I don't know. I hear the same things as you, and I sit in the meetings, but I can't give you any more. And some of it's just the reality. And I try to let people know we don't want to fill you full of sunshine and tell you it's going to be 8 years and then have to back up and go, sorry, it's going to be another 2, because that's more difficult. But that's one of the frequently asked questions that I get.
I got that down. We'll talk about that on Friday too.
It's a difficult one. Anything else on the communication? Moving to old business, summary notes, treasury reports, deadlines. Anybody have that? Summary notes. Let's go on the summary notes for meeting number 72.
Do you simply need approval for those notes?
Yes.
I move approval of all summary notes as distributed.
Second that.
Who seconded it?
I'll second that.
Ron? Jenny made a motion to approve meeting notes for number 72. Summary notes. Do we have any more discussion on them? We have a vote. Ron,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Denny,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Ken, aye. Tony,
Aye.
motion passes. Summary notes for number 72 approved. Thank you, Silas. Oh, now I buried my. New business, NSA share passwords, login information. Silas, all yours. Where'd he go?
So I was thinking that to clear up some of these issues with Zoom and potentially access to the Google Drive, it would be good to at least limit who has just core access to some of the passwords and just the ability to share permissions. With the addition of Ron Evans, I would recommend or possibly suggest having him and Chris and just potentially anyone just on an NSSA just to have just better coordination and cohesion between information sharing.
Who's Chris?
Chris Imo. But that was just a suggestion of just access to NSSA share drive for documents, legal meeting minutes, etc. And I know, Ken, you wanted to remove you wanted to separate your personal information from your from the current NSSA Gmail. So I think it would be good to potentially have a separate just email NSSA created and potentially use just use a different person, or at least someone not tasked with the volunteer role.
No, I agree. Myself personally, just my personal opinion.
But yeah, just Scott. Okay, if you have any suggestions.
No.
So we're gonna have to get the share screen straightened out and the recording straightened out. And who's gonna post that on the NSSA? I haven't been on there for too much going on. NSSA share. So who's gonna be controlling that to where the public can go in and see our previous meeting?
McCray has her hand up.
Yeah, McCray, can I forward this recording to you and have you post it?
Yeah, we can work out where this exists, but again, I think this is all in the COG's purview right now, our responsibility, and what Silas just presented and what we're talking about is getting the material on the Google Drive so that, or on our website, that should just be public access for anyone to be able to learn about the NSSA's history, all the meeting minutes, the past 74 meeting minutes, and just all this information, very transparent. And why we're proposing to limit some people's password access to the Google account is just so that there aren't lots of people going in and having access. So Ken, I believe it is COG's responsibility to be posting all this information, to be starting this meeting, to be doing the meeting minutes for you, to be uploading the recordings, uploading the approved meeting minutes. Like, this is all within our purview, and we are ready. I think we've been executing this and we're ready to continue with us having just kind of the full reins. And that's why Silas has been working with some of you on getting access. Everyone can ultimately everyone on the board can have access to the Google Shared Drive, but just kind of having some controls on who can send an email. Sorry, I just saw a cute person jump on the screen, a little person. So that is my feedback and response, but I think we are prepared to post it and do all of these tasks. We are in charge of the website. We will post material. We would like to have more, upcoming events, upcoming topics, and just so as much information as we can be providing for people to be able to come to and see.
No,
Is that helpful?
Yes.
And we'll coordinate with you, Ron, tomorrow on getting the recording from the YouTube channel and all of that. But we are prepared.
Thank you.
Yep.
And as summary notes, we don't have meeting minutes, not to be real picky,
Thank you for clarifying.
No, this is great. We thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants a North Santiam Sewer Authority Gmail account, I guess that can be set up. Ron had mentioned to me that he can do that. Get it off your personal emails. Tony, I know you're on your personal email. I know I am on my personal email. So if we want to change, oh, look at that. Another future investor.
I believe there might be a cost associated with if we start setting multiple people up with NSSA, like if you were to have something associated with our website. So that can be something we can come back to. I think that there is uniformity to talk about, all the board members having a uniform email, your first letter of your first name and then your last name at NSSA. But I think we'd like to provide you with a little bit more information. But right now, several of you have used the Google email. You know, Denny used it for communication. Ken, you've used it. And I think it's just, I mean, inevitably going to be confusing. Like if I went into my email that I was using and saw that someone had sent emails, I'd be like, wait, I didn't do that. What is that? So I think we're trying to narrow that for you. And we'll come back next month with some proposals, cost estimates for
I got
what that
that
can
on the
look like
next.
for everyone.
I got
We'll
that
put
on
it, yeah, we can add that.
Okay, yeah, Tony, Denny always says he sends emails and it's got my name on it. I'm innocent. I don't accept responsibility for Denny.
Somebody needs to.
Thank you, McRae. Overview of items, action items from Marion County contract operational plan discussion. Scott.
Okay, so what we've done is couple of things. One, McRae started to outline some of the things that we're trying to get housed under our contract to make sure that we understand roles and get some of these smaller detail things taken care of. The second piece is the operational plan itself. We're going to send you after this meeting a update. We've tried creating a template form about how to keep the board informed. So remember that we had a good meeting with Peter, Brian, Chris, our team did here, Laura, Silas, and myself, to sit and talk about where things were with the project. We wanted to start to back in the big dates and begin to work our way down so that the operational work that you folks are going to have to do, and this is going to be, you're going to have two tracks. You've got the project, which is what the county is managing, and Peter and all of those folks are managing that process. And then there's the operational plan. In other words, how to accept the asset at the end, what the plan for it is, what the numbers look like, the dates, all of that kind of stuff, so that when there are decision points that are in the capital side of the project or that upfront part of the project that need a tie-in back to the ongoing operational plan, that we know more or less where these things are. So we had a good meeting last week to start to get some things together, and we started a template for you folks so that you would have an operational process map to do. Some of the assignments that we came away from with our meeting with Peter, Brian, and Chris, and by the way, they have things, they know their data, they know their numbers, and lots of things in front of them. But where we're going to start to bend the focus for you folks is how to receive it in the end, how to receive an asset, how to be prepared for that, how to communicate about that, what things have to be in order so that you as boards or you as the individual members going back to your jurisdictions are beginning to check the boxes of the things that need to be done, so that in the end, when this project transfers, the first phase transfers in, that you're ready for when things are happening with that. So we're trying to identify like the big dates of where they are, backing in from there, what projects are going on. Secondly, just like Larry was talking about, and I think it really ties into Friday's meeting about the FAQ, as well as this whole conversation about what are the numbers, what are the data. You know, we want to be able to do some caveats in there to say, look, folks, you know, what's an estimate versus what is a known factor, what money is on the table versus what's not on the table. And so that, and what are the assumptions moving forward? There's some pretty healthy assumptions in this report. We're diving into that, as well as separate organizational structures. And I'm not suggesting that as we're suggesting anything different. I'm just saying getting a good understanding of what other organizations similar to you folks in Oregon are using for their operational plans, operational operational SOPs, operational, all of those kinds of pieces as you go through a capitalized project. So I thought the meeting was really good last week. We're gonna frame this up, and this becomes essentially a working draft. And that's, I think the language we use is going to have to be really important because we do not want any assumptions built into, as Brian was saying, as Tony was saying, dates, cost, those kinds of things, so that instead of things being baked in, things are very understood about cost against a time frame against actions. So we want to make sure that the folks managing the capital side of the project have got theirs, where it ties into where you guys have to do the work on the operations is done. Now, once we get this framework to you and start building it back in, one of the suggestions that was made is it may be worth, and I'll just throw this out there to the board, we may want to have a sit down. We may want to have an actual in-person sit around the table kind of conversation about it, and this is a focus on the operational plan, but talk about the big decision points that you folks will be dealing with as an authority moving forward. Where Mill City has, it's like that big clarifying question at the beginning. Well, Mill City's doing some grant work right now. What's that versus what are we doing? So that we can have real clarity in the language. And secondly, the board can be really clear about what decisions it's going to have to make in the operations plan. This is the hard work that the board has to do on that side in order to receive the asset. So we had a good startup meeting last week. Our folks are already diving into all the documentation so that we can tie your bylaws of your ORS to the IGA agreements, to the authority that you have under state statute, Oregon state statutes, and that your timelines and decision points are lined up with how the project is moving forward, what the next phases are, do they mean something, do they not? And then the entire objective is how to receive the asset, catch the ball. I use baseball analogies all the time, but how to receive that, and then how to make sure you're ready for the next phase, so that, part of having a good operation plan is being ready for the next part of it. So, and how that works. So you've got 4 jurisdictions that are all trying to deal with recovery and growth issues. Where does everything fit? We talked about the sanitary story and, having to click off a box about having a resolution that says, if you do this, you accept this money, you need to hook in. All those are little things in some ways, but they're really big, especially with the economic analysis that was done on this and how many EDUs you really need. So that is where we are focused right now. I'm going to stop right there. We're going to follow this meeting up. We're going to send our draft framework to you folks so that you can begin looking at it and see what we're trying to keep in front of you at all times. Think of it as you're going to have a series of parking garages where you put issues, but you're really going to have a dashboard where you're like, okay, here's the money, here are the dates, here are the decision points. Click, 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 click. And are we ready? Have we made this decision correctly? Check with legal, check with the county, check with Peter, check with DEQ, whoever, check with Arthur, however that has to work. Check with our own councils. Going to have to do a lot of gut checking as you go through this operation section. So we have our time frames about what we have to deliver and where, but I do think a sit down, and I think in short order, I think over the next month and a half is really important for this board to sit down physically together if you can. So I'm not suggesting it next week, but sit down, paperwork in front of you, a framework on this operations plan, have that good discussion, and know what your next moves are. Okay, I'll stop there and see if I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Scott?
No, but I appreciate laying that out in that format. My mind likes checkboxes and that kind of visual helps me process. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Tony. And it's going to be in draft form. There's an important point in saying that. You as a board need to be comfortable where your decisions are. When they come out of draft and then they're real action, then you need to say that they're actions. You've made a decision, you had a vote, you did this, you talked to the proper folks to get clearance. And then you can say, when somebody comes up, Tony and Donna, and you can say, yes, this is what we said. This is what we went through to get to here. Here's the next 5 things that we have to do. That's going to help you in communication on that retail level of being in community and meeting with your neighbors and that kind of thing.
And I think that something like that can even help not box, if I'm thinking correctly, not box us into a certain dates and timelines, but here's the path that we are going through, and it could flux a little bit, but no, this is where we're going. This is where we're at, where we're going. So yeah.
Yes.
I appreciate that vision, Scott. That's good. I think one of the reasons that some of our communities don't feel like they're getting enough information is maybe our councils as a general. I know that Ron and I on our council understand it pretty well, but we don't see all the people in our community. Everybody's got their favorite city councilor, it seems. So they can see that framework more clearly, and as council members communicate with their constituents. And so I appreciate that vision.
Mary?
Oh, I was just going to say, you might also want to talk to like the city of Coburg, who basically put a system in from septics to the community system.
Coburg, right.
So I think there might be some lessons learned. How did they communicate? Certainly there was people that didn't want to participate. They actually had to charge people before the system was ready to start getting some cash flow. And so I think they would be able to provide you some good information of just, again, it's a different city, but pretty small, that did this big lift, and how did that go down for them? What did they learn? Is there anything you can take away from that? Because I do appreciate just all the decisions that have to be made, and communicating that to the public, and then keeping them still on board when people start having doubts and whatnot. It's a big lift. So I do appreciate the board. I know you've been working hard since 2018, and you're still here. Yay. Now buckle up. It's going to get more intense as you have to make these kind of decisions.
Yeah, as a city manager, I've done this 3 different times with sewer systems, 2 times with public facilities, and it can be a real slog. And I really appreciate the time you guys have put in. We're going to try to ease that a bit by giving you frameworks that you can work with and feel comfortable about where you are with your decisions. Not necessarily comfortable with the decision, but comfortable about where you are and the kinds of things that you have to deal with. This is a big, pricey, expensive asset. It is both an asset and a liability. It needs to be understood from that perspective. It has growth built into it. You're going to have that out loud discussion about growth and how it plays into it, which means each individual community has to have a conversation about its expectations of those things. So a lot of work, a lot of shouldering to do. Ron and I had a good conversation last week, Ron. He's been there and done it before with utilities too. It's, how you expect the future is how you create that framework that you're working inside of, and you try to make the best decisions you can based upon that. So it's lots of good stuff to do. Mary, we're going to probably have some conversations with you, I think, in short order, talking about launch aids and some other little things that there's going to be some stutter steps in here. The county has been fantastic to you folks and to the whole canyon. Love their good graces. Lots of needs when you are sitting in the big chair, though. You have a lot of things going on, and you have no idea what tomorrow brings. So we want to give you the kinds of things that give you some of that ability to stay on the course, but understand what happens when things move along. So we're going to put that out to you folks tomorrow following the meeting. Larry, I'm really glad we're going to have the conversation about communication, because remember, there's two things being communicated. There's a project, and that has its own communication needs. And then there's the operations and the governance and how you set yourself up for that. And so they have to be in concert. They have to work well together. And we want to make sure that they do those things. There's a lot of dedication to getting this thing done, but it's definitely put your shoulder to the wheel, push along kind of time. So we'll try to keep you as straight and focused as we can, folks.
Thank you.
That is so wonderful to hear, Scott. That's like, I think, music to everyone's ears.
Well, and I will say, the two people on our team, McCrae and I will stay with this. This is in our great interest, and we're going to be around for this and help everywhere we can. Silas and Laura are coming on to shoulder a lot of the work that goes in with this side of it, and will become stronger voices as we go along. But we don't want to confuse everybody as we get there. So we're trying to build that capacity here so that we have that capacity throughout the region. So again, hats off, appreciate everybody, and we'll keep you informed as we move along.
Awesome. So what do you guys think for convening that meeting? Scott, if you think that draft framework is coming out tomorrow, would it make sense for us to have, let's see, we have for 2023 that we scheduled board session the first Monday, and then the third Monday we have the board meetings at 6 p.m. This third one is President's Day, so that would put the board meeting on the 27th with the next board session on March 6th.
And I can't do the 27th, folks. That's my old man birthday. I get old man birthday credits that night. So, are you going
to be 42?
I'm going to be 40.
Well,
again for the second time. So, but what I will say, Larry, is let's on Friday, let's talk calendar, because I want to work the board's calendar into our system as well.
Thank
you. Let's do that. And then what we can do is suggest a couple of dates out into the future for the board to sit down and how we might want to do that. I don't want to take up too much time now, but let's do that. And then we can focus that into our report.
Cool. Is that something that the board sounds okay with if we work in a couple of in-person meetings into the calendar for 2023?
Good with me.
Yeah.
Brian's nodding his head, yes.
Good with me. I travel quite a bit, so it just really, it can't revolve around me, but I will do my absolute best if it's not one of these sessions to be there.
Cool. We'll
And
have
Tony, we can always, at our place, we can always work you in both in person and live stream too. So we'll try to work with you as best we can. We want you at the table. You have to be at the table, Tony. I think that's important to the future of the project, quite frankly.
All right, thank you.
Cool. Anyone have any particular days they want to throw out for in-person meetings? If you want to throw out maybe once a month, twice a month, how many, Scott, do you think would be required?
I think we do a one-time session, see how it goes, and take it from there as like a work session.
Okay.
You're just going to have to set it up and then let
Yeah.
everybody know, because I can't guarantee to anything right now for the next
Sure, we
60
understand
days.
that, Ken.
Next 60 days.
Yeah, we understand that, Ken, and that's fair enough. So we're happy to do that and work with Larry and our team, and we'll get everyone around that table. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds like we'll be looking about 2 to 4 weeks out for that, maybe, if that sounds all right.
You guys can work it out.
And we'll send you the invite, Ken.
Thank you. Next meeting topics. I understand, McCrae, about emails. That's not an issue. Shouldn't be. So we're back on to communication. Just let us know if COG will let us know what's on the next meeting topics. I guess that's where we're at right now. Anything else?
Yep.
Thanks,
I was
McCray.
just gonna say, we'll set agendas and send them out a week before for you all with meeting
you.
minutes and, or I'm sorry, summary notes.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Ron, on your screen below where it says record,
Yes,
you can announce that meeting number 73 comes to a close. You don't have to take a vote. That's the way we have it set up. Comes to a close, you can state the time and adjourn the meeting, and then you stop the record.
and what's the meeting number again? 73?
73 and the time.
Okay, this is meeting number 73. The time is 7:54 p.m. The meeting is now closed. Recording is stopping.